As it says there, the ultimate data management software for drone inspections. Now, the title is a bit elusive in the fact that it's drone inspections. It actually really does incorporate all sorts of drone operations. We will go into a little bit more detail with that. Obviously, I'm joined today with James Bick, who's our in-house surveyor and survey guru. So he'll be obviously being able to pitch in with a little bit about how Aiva is being used in that industry and being used to some great effect. Thanks very much for joining us, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It's a very grey day where I'm sat up here in Cumbria. So, without further ado, we'll crack on. And I think before we do, I think we're gonna just to describe how the webinar is gonna play out. Essentially, we're gonna have a look at what it's being used for at the moment. Potentially talk through some traditional methods, and this is where we really want it to be interactive with you guys, because the interactive element is something that we are really passionate about. Obviously, having feedback from yourselves as customers, as drone operators, and then giving you potentially a new way of thinking, a new way of potentially storing data and using data. That's really where we add value, and that's what obviously copters stand by. So we'll look at traditional methods, how those can be improved, and then we'll actually do a run through. So I've got a couple of slides which are going to be obviously describing what you see when you actually do when you actually access Aiva. But then we'll also be going through an actual live demonstration, which I'll be doing myself. So hopefully, and we have used this software a couple of times before, and it has been a little bit ropey, but hopefully it goes swimmingly today for you guys. Yeah, so it should be a good one. So we'll get started. I mean, essentially, if you don't already know and you're new to copters and what we do, we're a complete drone supplier. We do drone technology, drone training. We do specialized training. We do a lot of the work with the CAA in the UK. So we do the PFCO course, Ofcom 4, Ofcom 5. But essentially, we're a team that's brought together as industry experts and industry specialists. So James obviously has come from the survey industry. I've come, quite up from the drone support network, looking into photography to start with, and it's sort of progressed into inspection. We've got our colleagues who work primarily in education and also the emergency services. But essentially, we are an umbrella company who look over not just a single product line, such as DJI or Parrot, but we offer a full solution from start to finish: software, integration, drones, training, and then consultancy at the end of the day. And I think I'd stand by Jim in saying that, if you're a customer of ours, we're always ready to take a WhatsApp or a call throughout the week, or even over the weekend if you're on a job. So yeah, I mean, we're always there for a good chit chat if that's what's needed. But I mean, Jim, have you got anything else to comment on this?
No, that's well rounded off, really, George. I think in terms of what we do at Copters is we're here to supply and help along your journey with integrating drones either into your workflows or adding drones as an additional tool to what you guys are already doing. So we're here to help. We're quite an approachable bunch. So as George said, a phone call or an email, we'll happily have a chat over the phone to try and fit your needs and requirements to what we have to offer.
A little bit more about obviously the drones that we supply now. In terms of the training side, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But I've sort of highlighted the drones and our partnerships basically that we've created in the UK specifically. And James will agree with it. So we can show you what drones are accessible with Aiva. Essentially, any photograph that you take that is combined with a GPS location as well as a direction that can be used in Aiva. And even the photos which don't have that GPS location, or they don't have the time stamped coordination, such as the Flyability Helios 2, because that's an internal drone, you can still use these images to really great effect with Aiva. And I know that, Jim, you obviously have a lot of experience with the likes of LiDAR USA, Ace Core, Wingtra. Do you want to just explain how Aiva is going to be able to benefit those drones?
Yeah, so I think certainly, generally speaking, we're all drone enthusiasts. We all love to use and work with drones. That might not always be telling at the end client point of view. You know, they're more interested in the data as opposed to us discussing about drones. Now, we can certainly sell the solution to them. We can tell them how great drones are in terms of safety, you know, getting that different viewpoint of a site, etc. But really, we're the enthusiasts. We like to talk about drones, but really, at the end of the day, what the client's interested in is that data. How can I use that data? What can I use that data for? So, you know, I often sometimes seen in the past people, you know, handing over imagery on, let's say, a USB stick, which, you know, that's really no good to anyone at the end of the day, because that's just a set of images with no real information, no data carried with it. So what Aiva can provide is that portal, that central hub, to use that data collected and then to make some informed decisions with it, and actually then be able to produce reports, which I'm sure George is going into later on. But all the drones here, you know, from things like the Ace Core and the Flyability, you can take that data out and use Aiva as that central hub and that management system, which is very important. And you know, we know that data management and handling vast amounts of data can be time consuming and expensive, and Aiva solves that with its solution internally.
Yeah, so I mean, just to touch on that, it's all about the data at the end of the day, and that's what we're really passionate about. Obviously, we haven't got the likes of Unique, Parrot, some of these other drone companies. I mean, we do support Parrot very heavily, and by all means, that the data collected from these drones will be brilliant for the likes of Aiva. Obviously, I wanted to touch on the likes of FLIR, because thermography, solar panel inspections is very prevalent with Aiva. It's obviously a growing market all around the world, but especially in the UK. And we're seeing, especially with the way times are going, obviously making things cheaper, quicker, and safer. You know, the use of drones is only going to grow. Yeah, we're really excited about sort of the future and what it's going to bring. Um, Touching on some of the main key core industries that the Aiva is being used in, you've got obviously oil and gas, power generation, chemicals, mining, public safety, but essentially it'll cover everything. Inspections, the biggest one, especially alongside surveying. So if you're doing a full survey with then the intent to produce a report on any sort of structural defects, this will be a really good solution for yourselves. And we'll go into a little bit about how it's being used, what the main benefits are of actually pulling that information out. But essentially, this is going to be a tool for drone operators to streamline their operation. It's going to make it quicker. It's going to make it more accessible. And at the end of the day, you're going to get some really good results, which is potentially going to win you more work. The way that Aiva works and the way that we're going to obviously teach you how to use it is going to make you more sellable to your customers. It's not just going to be, as James says, handing over a memory stick with, you know, hundreds of photos and saying, well, there you go, do with it how you please. You're going to be able to produce a really good detailed report to which they're going to say, right, there we go, sorted, bish bash bosh, I can go to this site at this location and I can find out the information. And that's obviously why it's been, you know, really popular in these industries, because it's easy to use. Maybe not a very drone enthusiastic industry, a lot of these when they first started, but it's software and it's technology like Aiva which is really pushing it, because it's easy to use, it does away with traditional methods, and yeah, it's that ease of use which we can't stress enough. So to go off the back of sort of traditional methods, as we were speaking about, and I think James did sort of spoiler party a little bit on this, but essentially, we speak to a lot of customers, and this is how they would usually do it. They take, do a site survey, and they pass on this information to a customer, with little, knowledge of what they're looking for, what sort of information they actually require. And I mean, this is just a, it's just a document, with a lot of photos taken, and it's very difficult to actually identify what you're looking at, where it is. And that's one of the biggest things. It's, if you look at a single photo, you think, well, hang on, where was this taken? At what direction was it? Were you close or were you far away from the target? So if you were to find a defect on a building, it's very difficult to identify, um, actually where you are in relation to the building or the structure. Um, So another way people are doing it, they'll give the photos, and they'll actually culminate them into a single photo, which can look really good. And this can be sometimes, exactly what customers are after, or your clients. But essentially, where are these photos taken from? From what direction are they taken from? It doesn't really give you much information. And this is where Aiva really does come into its own, because it gives you really detailed information at the click of a button. You don't really have to actually input that information, because it's already stored there. When the photo is taken on the drone, it's actually recording and time stamping direction, it's time stamping the angle of the camera a lot of the time with most drones, and actual GPS coordination. So in terms of taking that information, traditionally, and James will agree with me here, reporting on it could be really difficult, because you'd have to input that all yourself, and it would be a very manual and time-consuming task to do. Now it's all completely autonomous.
Yeah,
So
I think I'll just add. I think anyone's had an experience of dropping images onto a
yeah,
Microsoft Word format and trying to, try and get it nice and set that it looks presentable, losing the images, losing tables and stuff like that, and having a right game trying to make it to into a professional output for a client to look and interrogate for. I mean, this software, that's a thing of the past now with Ava.
information. We haven't really touched on sort of it being a cloud-based platform yet, but it's that case of, hang on, what folder did I put these photos in? And then you start losing things, they start getting encrypted, they start breaking. It really is, oh, hang on, it was on a memory stick, that's back in the office, I can't access that now. It does give you a really good streamlined way of working, which we will go on to. Obviously, I want to, focus on doing a bit of a demonstration with you guys, and giving you some, a bit more of an in-depth look at what is possible, because that's really where the value lies. Again, where are these photos taken? What is it looking at? The difference is, with this, it's internal. But with Aiva, you're able to then structure them off, annotate them, and then give some really good detail at the click of a button. And it makes it really simple, really easy to use.
Previous slide, George, how if you're doing something like an inspection like this in an environment which is very uniform with, multiple vessels, well, how do I know the difference between vessel one and vessel two and vessel three? Ava allows you to tag these images, so you can say, well, I know that collection of images are for vessel one, and you can store, you can annotate, and you can section off these, so that that when you do produce the report, that that all them images in that certain section are for vessel one. So there's none of this confusion of, well, does that repair on that particular vessel, is that really on that vessel, or is that on another one? Or potentially creating using an older method, say, of getting confusion, sending a team to do a fix on a vessel which isn't on that particular vessel, and you have that downtime of trying to sort through data again to try and work out which is the one with the fault on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Jim. So essentially, trying to break Ava down into as simpler terms as possible. The basics: capture your data, upload them to Aiva. It is a click of a button, upload a file, upload all of your information that you've collected. It is then stored there, cloud-based, so you don't actually have to have any storage on your personal or your home computers. Makes it, running, programs and running your computer a lot quicker. And then from there, on the actual software, which we will go into, you can then classify, annotate, and then create those defects, create the defect data. So when you actually annotate them, it all gets pulled into a report, which then autonomously creates that into a really easy readable document that you can then send on to your customers and send on to your clients. And yeah, that's really it. I know there's five different processes there, but it is literally capture, process, report, and that's as simple as it is. And that's why we think it's a really good good utility to have in anybody's arsenal, because it's very streamlined, it's very easy to use, and it's going to save a lot of people a lot of time and a lot of headaches. So essentially, you've met with the screen, Aiva, and I'll go through a couple of slides now, but then we'll smash it straight onto the actual portal. But this can all be accessed through the Copters website. So if you haven't been onto the Copters website and seen, there's a login tab on the top right-hand corner of the actual website, which you can access the Copters Academy, but you can also access your login to Aiva. Now, if you do choose to use Aiva, or you just want to have a look into it, this is what you'll be met with. It's completely secure. So you need a password. You also need you can do two-way password sync. So every time you log in, you have to get a code for your phone. So you can increase the security side of that. I know we have a lot of customers, especially MOD, police, who are all very concerned about data security and data management. This is all encrypted. So moving on, you then see a page which and don't worry if you miss anything here. We're obviously going to go through this a little bit more in depth in the actual demonstration, but essentially you're met with a world map, and for a lot of people, you'll be based primarily in the UK, to which it'll focus around all of your ongoing or your past inspections. But this will give you a map of all of the inspections that are going on, all of the inspections that you've completed, to which you can then click on a single inspection, and it will show you all of the photos that were created, the direction that they were taken. And this is what's really useful, because you can now see on those photos the single blue dots, which have got the direction. You can click on those. You can get an altitude from those photos. So, Jim, just to clarify, this was a survey that then somebody went round and did a free flight with, and I think there were a few different drones used. I think there was a Phantom, an Inspire 2, and a Mavic. So, we're not talking top of the range cameras, not talking, anything, mind blowing in terms of drone equipment. We're talking very good, solid equipment. Now, Jim, do you just want to go into a little bit more of the workflow to capturing that data?
As you said, what you do is you'll take your SD card out of your drone, for instance, and log into Aiva, and with basically one click, you'll upload all them images up onto the portal for that particular job or that particular file. What you'll then have is you'll be presented, as George says, that with all the images based on an underlay, so where them image has been taken, the orientation of them. So straight away in itself, that's a very useful tool. So you can see that you've captured all that particular area. You can then start going through the images and annotating on top of them. So something like this rooftop here, if you imagine it's for, say, a building survey or an inspection survey, you can start going through these images, clicking on them individually, which will then bring up the image in question. You can then start your annotation. So there are templates you can set up. So if you are a specialist in surveys or roofing, you can set up your own template with a list of faults which which are, for example, quite common in that particular industry. So you can also set up hotkeys as well. So with this particular example, it'll be a case of clicking on the pen there, highlighting a particular issue, selecting what type it is, selecting the severity, and then any sort of remediation action that needs to be doing. Now, that can sound quite a long time to do, but you can start setting up hotkeys. So with essentially a few clicks of your keypad, you can plow through these images so quickly, allocating a fault, allocating something which needs to be done to them very quickly, very efficiently, and then produce a report from these. Also, as you're going through, when you're allocating these severity ratings, these type of issues, at any point you can select a filter. So all these images at the bottom, you can just say, well, actually, I want to say if you had an engineer going out to on a particular site and you wanted him to be tasked with tackling the most severe faults with that particular building, you can basically sort down at the bottom, severity rating 5, and pull off a report just for them particular faults. Hand that over to him, and that can almost be his scope of work for the day, going through them individual severities, or I suppose in major construction or engineering projects, you can then start raising work orders, repair orders for them particular faults. And the nice thing about that is you have that full workflow, that full streamline from data capture to annotation to reporting, and then that report then can go into, for example, your own internal remediation action software for that repair order to be generated.
To touch on that, cheers, Jim. The original slide we showed, it had all of the photos being shown, and as James said, you can filter them out, so you can just have the photos or the images which have severity. So you're not sending a map to a customer and they're going to go, bloody hell, that's so much information. I only needed to see something that's severity 1, severity 2, severity 3. This does that for you. And as I say, it's a click of a button. It's a really streamlined process. Now, this is a bit of a standard report that was pulled from it. It gives you, and if you can't see that, I do apologise. It might be the connection that's a bit slow that can't allow you to see the small writing, but shows you the drones used, shows dates. You can obviously change the Aiva logo on the top left to your company's logo, which obviously makes it look a lot more professional. Gives you guys, a bit of freedom to be more personal with your customers. But yeah, gives you ideally exactly what your customer wants to see at the touch of a button. So yeah, on each of those photos, it shows the direction of the photo taken. So when you come to actually looking for that fault or looking for that problem, it's really easy to do. They know where they're going, and it's basically following to a coordination. And this is essentially what the next few pages would show you. So it's a single fault. There's a gutter issue. The protective net needs fixing, but this was done with a free flight. So this shows you how using a Mavic or something like that is really powerful for the up close inspections. Flying around, taking the image, and then you can zoom in and then you can annotate it as well. And that might be missed by a lot of people on the ground, as the way that it's structured and the way that it's actually viewed, you wouldn't be able to see it just walking by. So, a really good use case for drones in general, that's really going to be powerful.
Something out, that he's going to have that document, that information that he can get straight on site, go exactly where the fault is, and then he can marry up that image to what he's actually seeing in person. So he knows he's in that right. He knows he's in that right location, and he knows what he has to do. There's no time waste in there. That as soon as he gets on that site, he knows what he's doing. He knows where he's heading. And
yeah,
great,
absolutely.
I imagine like this particular little fault here, to have that geo-reference data for imagery is great, and drones can do that. Something like a small Mavic, don't necessarily see it as always having to fly. I'm sure a lot of you know that just by having the drone in your hands and taking some imagery for sort of elevation side of things, that's got them geotags stored in. And that's such a vital tool and vital data capture, so you can start using them at the almost ground level then, or even taking imagery on your phone to a certain degree. I mean, they're all tagged as well. They can be put straight into Aiva as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So yeah, just another example of that. We are going to go straight into sharing screen, so hopefully it works, and hopefully We don't have any bugs, but in terms of what you can do, you can annotate multiple different sections of a single photo. This gives you the ability to highlight different sections, and so in terms of doing a report, it's even easier. And it's not pages on pages on pages, but it's a single page, really easily laid out. So I will, from now, just try and share screen, and we'll go from there. So this is essentially, and hopefully everybody can see this. I'd really appreciate if everybody could just stick a thumbs up or a yes into the chat, just so everyone can see it. But essentially, this is the overview. So if we were to click on a single image, it'll zoom in onto what we need to see, and it'll give you that overview of all of these photos. Um, so using sort of Google Maps or whatever mapping system it's already got inbuilt, it'll actually give you the overview. So you'll get the satellite data. You can input, I think it's drone deploy. So your 2D image that you capture, overlap it. But essentially, it's a lot quicker to just do a simple Google Maps overview. Now, what you're able to do now is, as we've discussed, is you can see all of these photos, and some of them are bunched together because there's multiple photos taken. But as we described before, there was a single flight from a single waypoint flight mapped out. This gives you an overview of all of the photos, as you can see below. And it's just a case of one click of a button and it brings this image up here. And because it's all stored online, you'd think that it would be very slow to render, to bring up, but because it's using a magnifying pixelating tool, it actually uploads them very quickly, because it brings up the smallest pixel photo it can, and then as you zoom in, then you start to get more detail, and then it starts to bring that up. But essentially, you can move these about, find the exact photos that you need. So let's click on this building here, because this is where the real information was being captured. And let's click on this third one, because that's already been annotated. And we will look into a little bit more of the annotation. So essentially, that was the above view, and there were reports of being a problem on this side. I think this was just a standard sort of home inspection or complex inspection. Multiple photos taken of this beam structure for the roof, and obviously you can zoom in just to get a bit more of an understanding of where it is. So this is where that is. But this is the photo that we're really interested in seeing. So I'll try and make this a little bit bigger. So small issue, you can zoom in and you can see that there has been some damage to the roof here. Now to do that, so if I was to do that again, it's just a case of and essentially I don't need to do that. So I will do one over it just to show you how easy it is to annotate, because it is, as Jim says, the hotkeys, stuff like that is very interesting, very easy to use. So select annotation type, it brings up this. It's you've got plenty of customizable aspects that you can change yourself. Lots of different hotkeys and tags that you can input to give your customer the best idea of what has gone wrong. But let's go for roof, and let's do a small issue, broken slate, missing slate. Let's go for small issue. So select that, severity 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, I don't think it's too bad a severity, but we will keep it at 3, and then create that annotation. And it's as simple as that. And what's really interesting, and we didn't really pick up on it um, on the webinar on the slides that we produced. There was a slide, but we brushed over it quite quickly. Is what Aiva allows you to do is to bring in a specialist, so an actual a specialist on inspection, solar, wind. And James, you want to just discuss that a little bit further, because this is something which you've obviously used in the past.
Yeah, so essentially, what Ava has is there's a this I think it's about here called analyze. So what that actually means is that you can send that data to a specialist in the UK who specialises, for example, thermography or blade inspection. So what that allows you to do as a business is you can promote that you have in-house expertise without having somebody on the payroll. So a good example here will be solar panels. So that you can go to a site, you can collect all that data for a solar panel inspection, upload it up to Ava, and then send it to a specialist and pay a small amount of money for that analysis. And then he will report back, and then you can share that data with the end client with all the annotations on and all the recommended remediation work which needs doing to that. So that's a really great, powerful tool for your businesses to be able to say, well, actually, we have these in-house expertise. We are going to keep the data internal. It's going to be our data, and we will send back the required work to be done from that without having to rely on external contractors. You can promote and say, well, you have these expertise in house.
Absolutely. So just on that point, some clients are literally just going to want the imagery. They're going to what you want to report on it themselves. Some customers are going to want you to do the reporting. And when it comes to that, if you haven't got the experience just yet, or you're still working on that, you can lean on external factors, which are provided through Ava. Um, but essentially, I think I'm just going to touch more on the reporting side of it now, because you've seen the way that the data is captured, you've seen how it's uploaded, seen how it's then portrayed to the user and then to the customer, and it's really as simple as that. So essentially, from there, you can then there's a button in the top right, and you can create a report. Now, this report allows you to take all of the issues that you've found, and it puts them into a single document. And this you can obviously edit this yourselves, change the logos, make it a lot more presentable and a lot more interesting to your customer. I say interesting, but obviously a little bit more personalized maybe is the correct word. But yeah, so from there we're only highlighting severity 1, 2, and 3. Severity 3 was the one that I just did there in a certain demo. From this, you can change anything really that you see on this workflow. So you can zoom in for the purpose of this. We'll zoom right in so the customer can see all of those points there. And as you go down, it gives you a list of all of the faults that you found. The most of them being gutter issues, a couple of small issues, and debris found. So if there's been a storm, if you're doing a storm check and you're finding debris laying around on site, and then from there it gives you positioning, it gives you the actual photo itself and the severity issue. So basically how to find it, where it is, where the angle of the photo was taken. So as was said before, if you've got a man on site who's going out to do the repairs, so if you're doing building management, maintenance, your guy can literally have this report and say, well, it's there, so it's just on this gutter, need to get the ladder out, and he's not going around the full site doing 100 different inspections. He's going to go to a single point where you've told him to. And that's really where the time saving element comes into play. So yeah, we're really excited about it. There will be more information coming out as we go on. But yeah, if anybody's got any questions, we'd love to hear them, especially with different applications. It's always interesting to find out a little bit more about how you are currently using your software management and your data management, and how we could potentially look at implementing Aiva into that. But James, have you got anything else to comment on, or to go into a little bit more depth in?
I think the thing I like about Aiva the most is this paper trail. Um,
Yeah.
we're always trying to see, where this fault's come from, how long it's been there. Well, having a report like this in essentially a piece of paper or a digital copy that we know on a certain date that this particular image, this issue has been logged, it's been looked at, annotated on, and a decision's been made. So, as I suppose, a facility management sort of tool, or how we can use this data successfully, is that's been logged. That action can be now created and worked on from that. So, to use this as a central hub for this kind of work, it's not necessarily just a tool for drones. We can drag in data from different capture sources, either digital cameras or your phone, essentially, and feed it all into Ava. That's what I like about it. I don't see Ava just as a drone program. I see it as a program to benefit facility management inspection companies. And I absolutely love it. I think it's so easy to use, really great, really nice, easy workflow. And you can get to pretty much where you need to go with a few clicks. Annotate, few clicks. Pull off that report, few clicks. Sort out your data so that all the particular faults listed in one. Being able to go, right, I want all the imagery where there's a missing tile. 2 clicks there. That's what I think why this is a really great, powerful tool. Finger on mute, Joe.
So just touching on the pricing, because I had a couple of questions on this. We'll be sending out a bit of a brochure, which gives you the breakdown, but essentially it's done over 12 months. You get a certain amount of images and a certain amount of sites to use these on. If you go over that limit, you can then upgrade, or you can pay per image. Makes it cheaper, makes it easier to handle, and I think the way that we've structured it, the way that we are looking to price it, it's just going to make it more accessible for smaller companies, middle ground companies, and these larger corporations. So it's all about accessibility, making your lives easier. And I think we're really going to put some smiles on people's faces when it comes to reporting on data, because I've been there. You've gone out onto site and you've taken these images, and you're there and you're spending hours scrolling through images. You don't know which one's which. You don't know where to look. So this is really going to give you a good overview of what you've actually taken, and what's going to be usable in terms of a report. So I think we're really excited about it, and I know I think a lot of our customers will be as well. But with that being said, thank you very much for joining us. We are going to we are going to be releasing a little bit more information. The webinar is going to be recorded and sent out to you. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions, you want to have a bit more of an in-depth chat, even have a bit of a demonstration, just give us a call. We'll run you through it. Really appreciate you joining us. Jim, any last words? You're on mute. Got you that time.
Keeping the mute on. Any questions? Please send them through. I'm slowly going through them at the bottom now to answer all your questions. But here to help, here to have a chat. Thanks for attending.